Ladies and gentlemen, let us wander for a moment into the cavernous depths of the psyche, where archetypes breathe and the faint music of the collective unconscious resonates in us all. Carl Jung taught that love is not merely an emotion, but a catalytic force guiding the process of individuation, the lifelong task of becoming who we were always meant to be. In the mirror of the beloved we glimpse both our hidden shadow and our shining potential, inviting us to a dance of wholeness. With that inner landscape in view, we can observe 10 reliable signs that the love before us is genuine, transformative, and dare I say, numinous. True love, in its most authentic form, creates an atmosphere of psychological safety, an invisible yet deeply felt condition, where each person can be fully human without fear of judgment, ridicule, or abandonment. It is not merely the absence of harm, but the presence of an affirming emotional environment in which vulnerability is met with care, not critique. In psychological terms, safety is the foundation upon which all higher relational functions are built. Without it, even the most attractive chemistry or compatible values cannot bear the weight of intimacy. This safety allows for openness, fosters resilience, and builds the emotional architecture necessary for long-term growth. In Jungian language, it is the sacred container, the temenos, where the transformative alchemy of love can take place. And like any alchemical vessel, it must be sealed, not airtight against discomfort, but protected from contempt, threat, or emotional neglect. People often misunderstand love as the perpetual presence of affection or pleasure, but a truer test is how love responds when we expose our most fragile parts. In real love, when one partner reveals a fear, an insecurity, or even a past trauma, the other does not recoil, minimize, or deflect. Instead, they listen with attunement, as if they are handling something sacred. This doesn't mean perfect understanding is always possible. No one can truly inhabit the interior of another, but it does mean that the attempt to understand is consistent and sincere. In a safe love, emotional honesty becomes a habit. One can say, "I'm feeling hurt," or "I'm afraid I'm not enough," without being met with defensiveness or mockery. This openness is not weakness. It is a form of relational courage that invites deeper bonding. The safety between the two makes such disclosures feel like bridges rather than risks. As a result, both people feel seen, not the version of themselves they think will be accepted, but their full, complex selves, shadows, and all. Another crucial aspect of psychological safety is predictability in emotional behavior. When someone knows that their partner won't erupt in rage, shut down completely, or use silence as punishment in the face of difficulty, they can approach conflict with curiosity rather than dread. In such relationships, mistakes become learning opportunities, not reasons for punishment or withdrawal. There is room to breathe, to experiment, to grow. Trust builds layer by layer when partners learn that expressing themselves does not end in emotional injury. It's also important to emphasize that safety does not equal comfort at all times. True love may bring discomfort through growth, through confronting one's ego, or through honest conversations. But even in discomfort, the bond remains intact. A couple that loves safely can sit in the storm together without losing their connection. The emotional scaffolding they've built holds them steady, allowing storms to cleanse rather than destroy. Moreover, when psychological safety is present, humor, play, and creativity emerge naturally. These are signs of a nervous system at ease, not one that is hypervigilant or walking on emotional eggshells. This kind of safety fosters a lightness of being in the relationship, not because issues are avoided, but because connection is secure enough to withstand reality in all its complexity. Ultimately, psychological safety is not only a sign of true love, it is a prerequisite for it. Love that endures and transforms must be rooted in this kind of sanctuary. Without it, we cannot be truly known. And if we cannot be known, we cannot be truly loved, only admired, managed, or idealized. True love says, "You can show me all of you, and I will not run." That is not only safe, it is sacred. In the realm of true love, one of the most profound yet often overlooked signs is the deep respect and support for each other's individuation. To love truly is not to possess or to mold another person into a desired image, but to honor the separate, evolving identity of the one we love. Individuation, a term central to Carl Jung's psychology, refers to the process by which a person becomes their most authentic self, unique, integrated, and whole. In a relationship grounded in true love, This journey is not only permitted, but actively nurtured by both partners. Contrary to many cultural depictions of romantic love, where two people are portrayed as halves completing each other, genuine love does not seek fusion. It respects the boundary between self and other. In fact, fusion, the collapse of boundaries in the name of closeness, can become a subtle form of control, however well-intentioned. When one person's life, thoughts, or goals begin to disappear into the other's, the relationship may feel close on the surface, but it often becomes emotionally claustrophobic. True love creates space, not suffocation. A partner who honors individuation does not feel threatened by the other's growth, autonomy, or separate passions. Instead, they are curious about them, even inspired. They do not say, "Why do you want to change?" but rather, "How can I support the next chapter of your journey?" This might look like encouraging someone to go back to school, take a new job in a different city, or explore a spiritual path that differs from one's own. Even when this evolution introduces new tension or uncertainty, the focus remains on nurturing the individual's true path, not preserving comfort or familiarity at the cost of their inner truth. Supporting individuation also means tolerating the complexity of the person you love. It requires seeing your partner not as an extension of yourself or as a fixed-role spouse, parent, provider, but as a living, evolving psyche with an interior landscape full of mystery. It involves letting go of the fantasy that we will always understand each other completely. In this way, individuation reminds us that love is not ownership, but witnessing. Another critical aspect of individuation in love is self-responsibility. In a truly loving relationship, both partners take ownership of their own psychological work. They do not outsource their happiness to the other, nor do they demand that their partner rescue them from discomfort or make up for past wounds. Each person is committed to their inner development and brings that growing self to the shared space of the relationship. This dynamic creates not dependency, but mutual empowerment. True love respects the rhythm of growth. Not every season is aligned. There will be moments when one partner is diving into personal development, while the other is in a phase of rest or uncertainty. A mature, loving partner does not interpret this as a threat or a reason to withdraw affection. Instead, they hold space, trusting that mutual respect for individuation will ultimately deepen the bond, not dissolve it. It is also worth noting that individuation doesn't pull people apart when love is real. Rather, it enhances the richness of connection. Two individuals who are deeply rooted in their own identity can offer more to each other, not less. Their love is not built on dependency but on choice, not on fear of being alone but on joy in being together. Thus, true love says, "I want you to become who you truly are, even if that means challenging my expectations or changing the rules we've grown used to." It is in this unconditional support for personal evolution that love becomes not just emotionally satisfying, but spiritually generative. Love then becomes not a destination, but a sacred context in which two souls walk side by side, each unfolding toward their fullest, truest form. One of the most essential signs of true love is empathic attunement, the ability to sense, understand, and respond to the emotional currents flowing beneath another person's words and behaviors. In a loving relationship, this quality functions as a kind of emotional intelligence in action. It is not just about hearing what someone says, but feeling what they mean. It involves being present enough to notice the subtle cues, a slight change in tone, a pause that lingers, a shift in body language that signals discomfort or joy. True love is marked by this deep listening, not only with the ears but with the heart. Empathic attunement does not require perfection or psychic ability. It requires presence and the willingness to stretch beyond the self. In many relationships, people listen in order to reply, to defend, or to fix. But in love that is real, listening becomes an act of devotion. It is not driven by ego but by the desire to witness and understand the inner world of the other. When we are attuned, we do not impose our interpretations too quickly. We ask, we check in, we clarify, we make space for the other person's emotions to unfold, even if they are messy, even if we don't fully understand them at first. This level of emotional presence fosters a deep sense of security. The person being heard feels seen, not as a role, not as a set of tasks performed or needs fulfilled, but as a human being whose emotions matter. That kind of validation is not only healing, it is transformative. It affirms the person's right to their feelings and experiences without shame or dismissal, and in turn it creates a feedback loop of trust. The more a person feels safely received, the more they are willing to share, and the deeper the bond becomes. In true love, this attunement is mutual. Both partners make efforts to stay emotionally connected, even during times of stress or disagreement. If one person is upset or withdrawn, the other doesn't ignore it or take it personally. They reach out with curiosity rather than accusation. They might say, "I noticed you seemed distant tonight. Is something on your mind?" rather than, "Why are you being cold with me?" The tone is one of inquiry, not interrogation. This small difference is critical. It keeps emotional dialogue open rather than shutting it down with blame or defensiveness. Empathic attunement is especially vital during conflict. Many relationships falter not because problems arise, but because partners fail to stay emotionally connected while navigating those problems. True love doesn't mean you always agree, but it does mean you stay emotionally available, even in disagreement. You strive to understand not just what your partner believes, but why it matters to them, what feelings lie beneath their position. This emotional generosity allows you to find solutions that are compassionate, not just practical. This quality of attunement extends to everyday life as well. In moments of joy, an attuned partner shares in the excitement without envy or In grief, they offer presence without immediately trying to fix the pain. They know when silence is more supportive than words. They offer comfort without conditions. Their emotional presence becomes a stabilizing force in the other person's life, and vice versa. Importantly, empathic attunement is not a static trait. It is a skill, a relational practice that deepens over time. It requires effort, attention, and emotional discipline. It grows when both people are committed not only to being loved, but to truly loving, to showing up fully, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. When this level of emotional connection is present, love becomes more than affection or attraction. It becomes a sacred exchange of inner worlds. Both people walk away from interactions not only feeling heard, but feeling known. And in a world where most people are rushed, distracted, or misunderstood, to be truly known in this way is not just rare. It is one of the clearest signs that love is real. True love is sustained by a shared ethical core, an underlying alignment of principles that quietly orchestrates day-to-day choices, long-range plans, and spontaneous reaction. When two people's values resonate, their relationship gains a dependable compass that guides them through the shifting landscapes of mood, fortune, and circumstance. This alignment is subtler than shared hobbies or compatible personalities. It is the deeper coherence of moral norths pointing in the same direction. Picture two travelers in a dense forest. If they both carry compasses calibrated to the same true north, they can roam or pause independently yet rejoin the path without dispute. In relationships lacking this common calibration, however, every fork in the trail threatens to become an existential clash. What does an ethical core actually look like in daily life? It appears in the instinctive honesty with which partners speak, sparing each other the corrosive effect of half-truths. It surfaces in the way they handle money, transparent, fair, and consistent with their mutual idea of stewardship rather than secrecy or indulgence. It frames how they talk about people who are absent, avoiding gossip because loyalty is a shared principle. It is evident in how they react to injustice in the world, whether they volunteer together, raise socially conscious children, or simply refuse to profit at someone else's expense. These repeated micro-actions signal we answer to the same inner tribunal. Over time, that reassurance becomes as comforting as any love letter. Crucially, a shared ethical core does not require identical opinions on every issue. It requires compatible first principles from which disagreements can be safely explored. One couple might both revere compassion, yet express it differently, one through animal welfare, the other through elder care. Their projects differ, but their guiding value unites them. Another pair might cherish personal freedom and therefore negotiate household rules in ways that avoid coercion. Even if they debate curfews for teenagers or boundaries with extended family, the meta-value freedom with responsibility remains intact, allowing conflict to be constructive rather than corrosive. When adversity strikes, this alignment proves its worth. Imagine a sudden job loss that threatens financial security. Partners who both prize integrity decide together how to handle debt or new income sources, refusing shortcuts that violate their conscience. Or picture a medical crisis. If both believe in the dignity of life and informed consent, they can face agonizing treatment choices as collaborators instead of adversaries. Shared ethics become the scaffolding that keeps the structure steady while emotions shake the wall. Psychologically, this consonance eases a subtle but relentless anxiety, the fear that the person we love will under pressure reveal a code we cannot accept. Jung noted that the greatest threats to relationship are often archetypal: betrayal, injustice, abandonment, because they strike the collective layer of the psyche. Knowing your partner's moral center aligns with yours calms that archetypal fear. The unconscious relaxes,
shadow projections shrink. You no longer need to keep watch for hidden daggers of ethical incompatibility, which frees energy for intimacy and creativity. Supporting each other's growth also depends on shared ethics. Suppose one partner considers self-development seminars valuable while the other sees them as exploitative. Without a shared standard for discerning authenticity and respect, encouragement quickly turns into suspicion. But if both esteem lifelong learning and critical thinking, they can evaluate opportunities together, balancing enthusiasm with skepticism. Thus, ethical harmony not only prevents conflict, it amplifies mutual enrichment. Finally, a relationship grounded in a common ethical field acquires a quiet radiance others can feel. Friends perceive a seamlessness between word and deed. Children absorb lessons about integrity not merely from lectures but from the living syllabus of their parents' partnership. Even strangers sense the effortless courtesy with which these lovers treat service workers or vulnerable neighbors. Such a couple becomes, however modestly, a stabilizing node in the social fabric, proof that private love, when rooted in shared principle, contributes to the public good. In sum, true love's shared ethical core is less about reciting identical creeds than about tuning hearts to a congruent frequency of conscience. It is a silent pact that says, whatever storms arise, we will navigate by the same With that assurance, the journey of two individuating souls becomes not a tug-of-war between competing moral maps, but a co-authored pilgrimage toward a horizon both recognize as right. Reciprocal growth facilitation is the lifeblood of a relationship that aspires to be more than companionship. It is the twin engine of a shared journey in which both partners become catalysts for each other's unfolding. In a bond where true love abides, each person acts as both witness and midwife to the other's potential, refusing to settle for static comfort when vitality and expansion are possible. This reciprocity differs from the uneven dynamic of teacher-student, parent-child, or rescuer-victim. Instead, influence flows in both directions, sometimes simultaneously, sometimes in alternating waves, but always with the understanding that each soul carries seeds of latent possibility waiting for the right relational climate to germinate. At the practical level, reciprocal growth facilitation shows up in how partners talk about goals and fears. They ask open-ended questions: what sparks your curiosity lately? Where do you feel stuck? And then listen without projecting their own agenda onto the answer. They celebrate experimentation, whether that means enrolling in a language class at midlife, volunteering for a daunting leadership role, or excavating old family patterns in therapy. No achievement is too small to acknowledge, because every incremental step strengthens the musculature of courage. Likewise, no failure is treated as definitive. Setbacks become raw material for reflection, a reminder that the path of mastery is paved with imperfect attempts. This mutual mentorship requires emotional balance. To cheer another's ascent is easy when life feels abundant. It is harder when your own plateau or dip coincides with the partner's surge. True love, however, resists the scarcity mindset. Partners counter envy with curiosity. What can I learn from your momentum? And counter self-doubt with gratitude. Your success expands the horizon for both of us. Such attitudes convert one person's advance into shared uplift rather than relational imbalance. Growth facilitation also involves gentle provocation. Because each partner sees angles of the other's character that are invisible from the inside, they can lovingly challenge blind spots. Perhaps one avoids conflict to keep the peace, undercutting their own integrity. The other might point this out not as criticism, but as an invitation to fuller authenticity. The timing and tone of such feedback matter greatly. It is offered when emotional safety is strong, phrased in terms of observed behavior rather than global judgment, and accompanied by genuine confidence in the other's capacity to evolve. When delivered skillfully, these prompts function like a mirror angled just right, allowing the receiver to glimpse unclaimed strengths or outdated defenses without shame. Importantly, reciprocal growth facilitation respects pace. Personal transformation rarely unfolds in synchronized steps. While one partner writes a dissertation, the other may be navigating grief or burnout. The dance of mutuality honors these asymmetries by alternating roles. Today I amplify you, tomorrow you steady me, while avoiding scorekeeping. Over months or years, the ledger balances through full-bodied presence rather than transactional equality. The neurological underpinnings of this dynamic are striking. Research on interpersonal neurobiology shows that encouragement from a trusted figure enhances dopamine release and fosters neural plasticity, literally making learning and habit change easy. Thus, partners who champion each other are not offering mere moral support, they are co-architects of each other's brain circuitry, shaping new possibilities at the cellular level. Jung would have appreciated this synergy, for he regarded relationship as a vessel for individuation. When two psyches interact with mutual benevolence, each becomes an alchemical reagent, accelerating the other's integration of shadow and emergence of latent archetypal potential. Reciprocal growth facilitation reverberates beyond the couple. Friends, colleagues and children observe a model in which love is synonymous with empowerment, not control. The household atmosphere hums with the expectation that learning is lifelong, and that every member's evolution benefits the collective. In this sense, the relationship becomes an incubator for cultural regeneration, two people practicing in microcosm, the collaborative spirit the wider world so urgently needs. Ultimately, when partners consistently foster each other's becoming, love transcends the nostalgic wish to preserve what was. Instead, it orients toward what could be, greeting every new iteration of the beloved with curiosity and admiration. The relationship remains fresh not because novelty is manufactured, but because both individuals keep unfolding, and each unveiling is met with the exultant recognition, "I see more of you now, and my love expands to meet the new Thought for 5 seconds. Love endures not by fervor alone but by the steady cadence of daily recommitment, an ongoing decision that transforms fleeting emotion into reliable presence. Commitment in a genuinely loving partnership is not a rigid contract signed once and forgotten. It is a living promise renewed in countless micro-choices, answering a late-night call, keeping confidences sacred, showing up for mundane chores even when excitement wanes. Such constancy gives the relationship its structural integrity, much like a framework of steel beams quietly holding up a cathedral's soaring arches. Visitors admire the stained glass passion, laughter, shared adventure, but it is the unseen steel that keeps the whole edifice from crumbling when storms arrive. Psychologically, steady commitment functions as an antidote to the human nervous system's fear of abandonment. When partners repeatedly confirm that they will remain through discomfort, the amygdala relaxes, freeing higher cortical regions for creativity, empathy, and problem-solving. This is why researchers find that securely attached couples argue more constructively. Their brains are not hijacked by the terror that disagreement equals departure. Knowing that the bond is resilient allows each person to speak honestly without tiptoeing around difficult truth. Maintaining commitment over time requires intentional practices rather than vague goodwill. Couples who thrive often ritualize connection weekly check-ins, state-of-the-union conversations every quarter, shared calendars for personal milestones. These routines are not bureaucratic, they are irrigation channels ensuring that emotional resources keep flowing even during drought seasons. Likewise, well-tended partnerships schedule fun with the same seriousness they reserve for responsibility. Setting aside romance dates or hobby days signals, our joy is worth protecting. Another pillar of lasting commitment is adaptive flexibility. Life stages may demand renegotiation of roles, careers shift, children arrive, illnesses strike. Instead of clinging to outdated agreements, devoted partners treat the relationship like a living system. Goals are revisited, workloads rebalanced, dreams retuned to new reality. This agility prevents resentment from calcifying. It affirms that commitment is to the person and the evolving partnership, not to a frozen script. Integrity is equally crucial. Steady commitment rests on congruence between declared values and actual behavior. When someone vows fidelity yet flirts with emotional affairs, or promises financial prudence but secretly overspends, micro-fractures appear in the relational infrastructure. Over time, these hairline cracks widen into fault lines of distrust. Conversely, each congruent act, keeping your word about small things, apologizing promptly when you miss the mark, thickens the concrete of reliability. Long-term devotion also includes commitment to self-care. A partner who chronically neglects personal well-being will eventually struggle to offer consistent presence. Depleted reserves breed irritability, detachment, or ill health. Caring for one's body, mind, and social network therefore becomes an indirect pledge to the partnership itself. True commitment acknowledges that we thrives when I is responsibly maintained. Finally, steady commitment does not extinguish freedom, it refines it. By choosing to anchor oneself, each partner paradoxically gains a secure base from which to explore life's possibility. Knowing there is a harbor to return to, individuals can take professional risks, pursue intellectual or spiritual quests, and face existential uncertainties with greater courage. Commitment thus enlarges rather than shrinks the horizon, replacing anxious clinging with deliberate belonging. When these elements, repetition of care, ritualized connection, adaptive flexibility, integrity in action, and committed self-maintenance, interweave across months and years, love acquires the quiet power of a river carving stone. Its depths may not always be visible at a glance, but the landscape of both lives is permanently reshaped by its patient, unwavering flow.